Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Newsbrowse News broadcast. According to Xinhua.net, U.S. Central Command announced on Sunday, April 12th, that American forces will commence a blockade of all maritime traffic entering and exiting Iranian ports starting Monday, April 13th at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. This measure, in accordance with U.S. President Donald Trump's proclamation, will be applied impartially to vessels of all nations navigating to or from Iranian ports and coastal areas, including those on the Arabian Gulf and Gulf of Oman. The statement clarified that this action will not impede freedom of navigation for vessels transiting the Strait of Hormuz to and from non-Iranian ports. President Trump previously indicated that the U.S. Navy and allies would deploy minesweepers to secure shipping lanes. In response, Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Navy Command issued a warning, stating that any wrong move in the Strait of Hormuz would entrap adversaries in deadly whirlpools. Al Jazeera examines the potential lasting risks the U.S.-Israel war on Iran poses to global food security. The United Nations has issued a warning that the conflict's repercussions could extend far beyond its immediate duration. Key concerns highlighted include soaring energy costs and disruptions to shipping routes, which directly affect food supply chains worldwide. Furthermore, attacks on chemical plants in the Gulf region have severely impacted global fertilizer production, a critical component for agricultural output. The article, part of the Inside Story program, features experts like Morad Waba of the UN, Avinash Kishore from the International Food Policy Research Institute, and economist Steve Keen, who discuss which areas are most vulnerable to food supply risks and the possibility of a prolonged detrimental impact. 联合早报 reports that Iran's foreign minister Araghchi stated a deal with the United States was within reach during weekend talks in Islamabad. However, he lamented that maximum pressure, constantly changing conditions, and blockades ultimately prevented a breakthrough. The marathon 21-hour negotiations between the two nations concluded without a resolution. U.S. President Trump, speaking on social media, acknowledged that while most points of contention were agreed upon, the only really important nuclear issue remained unresolved. Iran's parliament speaker, Kalibaf, who led the Iranian delegation, expressed Iran's sincerity and willingness to reach an agreement, but highlighted a persistent lack of trust in the U.S. He criticized the U.S. for 2 attacks on Iran within a year during negotiations and asserted that the onus was on Washington to earn Tehran's confidence. Kalibaf also delivered a strong message to Trump. If you want war, we are ready. If you want to talk rationally, we will respond rationally. Iranian lawmaker Nabavian further disclosed that U.S. demands included sharing revenues from the Strait of Hormuz and removing 60% of Iran's enriched uranium. Iranian President Pezeshkian, in a call with Russian President Putin, condemned U.S. double standards Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian recently spoke with Russian President Vladimir Putin, declaring Iran's willingness to pursue a balanced and fair agreement for regional peace and security, while unequivocally asserting that national interests are a red line. This call follows failed U.S.-Iran negotiations in Islamabad and U.S. President Donald Trump's threat to block the Strait of Hormuz. Pezeshkian criticized U.S. double standards and excessive demands as hindrances to a just accord. He informed Putin about the Islamabad talks and thanked Russia for its support against military pressure and UN Security Council resolutions, which he believes prevented escalation. The Iranian president also condemned the U.S. for using Gulf bases against Iran, emphasizing that Tehran views regional states as brothers and seeks cooperative security without foreign interference. Putin reiterated Russia's support for political and diplomatic conflict resolution, stressing respect for Iran's sovereignty and offering further negotiation assistance. Iranian Parliament Speaker Mohammad Bagher Kalibah urged the U.S. to gain the Iranian people's trust. This report is from Duda One. According to GG Press, New York crude oil futures surged in after-hours trading on April 12th, temporarily exceeding $105 per barrel. This sharp increase, which saw the U.S. benchmark WTI gain over 9% from its previous weekend close, was triggered by heightened uncertainty surrounding a potential ceasefire between the United States, Israel, and Iran. Negotiations held over the weekend in Islamabad, Pakistan, failed to produce an agreement on ending hostilities, further escalating market tensions. U.S. President Trump announced on social media on April 12th that the U.S. Navy would commence operations to blockade the Strait of Hormuz, a critical waterway for oil shipments. This declaration sparked fears of prolonged disruptions to global oil supplies. The developments led to a broader risk-off mood across financial markets, with the Japanese yen sharply depreciating to the upper 159 yen range against the dollar due to safe haven buying of the U.S. currency. Major stock index futures, including the Dow Jones Industrial Average, also saw significant declines. That's all for this video. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.